Hi everyone, it's Eli. You know how sometimes you stumble upon something truly game-changing in healthcare? Well, I found it. KinetiSense. This cutting-edge motion capture technology is transforming movement, assessment, and recovery. Imagine getting instant AI-driven insights without any wearables on your patient. That's right, no ping pong balls needed. Just pure, accurate data. Perfect for boosting athletic performance, pinpointing imbalances, and refining rehab. Top professionals worldwide trust KinetiSense to maximize productivity and results. Check out our partner page to learn more. Experience the revolution in movement. Welcome to Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More, the podcast that gives you a viewpoint in sports medicine that can't be found anywhere else. I'm your host, Eli Halleck, and we have a fantastic show ahead of us today. So, let's get started. Welcome to Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More. Today, we have a very unique guest who I just met about a month ago and had a fantastic conversation with. And as you can hear, I'm a little jazzed to have her on the podcast because she has such a unique setup slash setting right now in the state of California that I really wanted to interview her and learn more about it. So today we would like to welcome Danielle York, owner at York Orthopedic Recovery in Modesto, California. For those of you who don't know Modesto, that is right smack dab up in San Joaquin Valley, right between Sacramento and Fresno, correct?
Correct.
I love those areas. They're great. I had a lot of family grow up there. Danielle, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about, share with you all the fun things that York has to offer and what we've been doing kind of silently for the last like 6 years, 7 years. Um,
Wow, 7 years, quote unquote, private practice in California. That's kind of killer and like unprecedented. I'm sure there are others that I just don't know about, but this show is all about educating. So this podcast, all we do is educate. So educate me, please. How'd you get started in the field, interested in the field? Tell us about your journey to where you're at now.
Absolutely. So I'm from Clovis, and in Clovis,
Yay, Clovis. I think I said that when we met. Yay, Clovis. Love that area.
yeah, so there's a lot of athletic trainers in the Fresno Clovis area, and had a high school athletic trainer, and I had the pleasure to see firsthand what an athletic trainer does at the high school setting, and I just thought it would be fun to work with athletes and help people through the recovery and their injury processes. I was interested in healthcare and trying to figure out like how do I help people optimize their health. And so I got into the profession at the undergrad level. And while I was doing my studies, I thought that I would want to work professional or Division I athletics for the rest of my life, like most.
Of course, like everybody else.
As I pursued my master's degree from Wichita State, I learned more about exercise science and how people can overcome disease and illness through exercise. And it just grew my passion for education, the education platform of like, how do we help people with vitality of life? And how do we help people overcome obstacles and recover from not just athletic activities and events, but how do we help them overcome obstacles of the everyday living? And I grew a passion into the CrossFit realm and wanted to dive more and realize that exercise really does make our life feel easier, and had a personal testimony in myself of how exercise really like transformed me. I was a high school athlete, but outside of athletics, I occasionally worked out, and I didn't really have like a routine or regimen. And I learned that through CrossFit and learned that framework and took my experience and background in that and plugged it into that CrossFit realm. So early on, I knew I wanted to do something, but there wasn't a framework. There wasn't a job out there for what I was trying to do, I decided to create that for myself. At first, I was like, well, how do I do this? I had so many questions, I didn't know who to ask. So I plugged myself into the industrial realm and got to know the industrial realm a little bit more specifically through experience of working at larger corporations like Frito-Lay and General Mills. And people just really responded to the athletic training framework, how they felt better, they more encouraged to go to work. The first plant I worked at, 2 weeks after starting there, they announced the plant was going to close. And so,
Oh, damn.
yeah, yeah. So that was fun, start your first outside of grad school job, and now you're having to like figure out how do you switch gears. Do you have a job? Do you not? And so the night before, I got a phone call from the safety manager saying, "Hey, you don't have to come into work tomorrow." And I didn't know why. And then I got a phone call the next morning saying, "Hey, the plant just announced they're closing." And
Wow.
yeah, so
Wow.
fun stuff. But it allowed me to transition the mindset of like, I'm helping these people prepare and get through their everyday shift. Now I'm helping them prepare for everyday life and potentially like pivoting in their own lives of how are we preparing them for their future jobs. It was, taking all of the information we learned about recovery and performance and applying it and then helping them be stronger and fitter and better so that they can look like a good candidate at another industrial plant.
So after that smack in the face of a company going, yeah, welcome to our organization. You've been here 2 weeks. Yeah, we're closing. It looks like you jumped into another industrial setting pretty quickly. So you got lucky there and were able to work there for several years prior to opening up and doing what you're doing now. Can you tell me how that transition, that real quick, uh-oh, let's pivot, like you said earlier, and then going into private practice, how that all kind of flowed into where you're at today?
Absolutely. So working in industrial athletics, I was privileged to like have a LinkedIn account at the time. And so I was working at the first initial site because I had the LinkedIn account. It allowed for another headhunter to find me and hit me up and say, "Hey, are you interested in working at this closer to home location?" I was at the time commuting 45 minutes to and from work. And I was like, absolutely. I don't have to go jobless first in a time. Let me interview here and see if it's a good fit for me. And so it allowed me to transition seamlessly into a different site where I was their first athletic trainer versus previously there had been 4 or 5 other athletic trainers who had trailblazed their way and allowed me to just learn their framework and apply that. So I pivoted into a larger company that contracted me into a 800 person site that ran 365 days a week, 24/7. And
Oh
so
boy, oh boy.
I was a sole athletic trainer. They had just converted a previous site from a previous program who had a PT in there into an athletic training style of business. And I had to, one, replace somebody who they really loved and admired. Two, now this is this newer, younger person, different company, different framework. I had to really navigate all of those icks. I got to work, though, alongside very closely with their safety, HR, and management team, which really taught me a lot of leadership skills to be able to help onboard and incorporate an ergonomics program that I learned from at the time on-site innovations. And so they taught me the framework to incorporate this. And at that site, I got to learn how to build relationships even more closely than I did before at General Mills. That relationship builder, also the leadership of watching how a large S corporation, so Fortune 500 company functions in and out, how they lead meetings, how they lead other people, how they help motivate people to work every day, really showed me that it's capable to create something of my own. It also put me in a lot of uncomfortable situations where I had to educate people not only like how recovery and performance and ergonomics can help them. But what is an athletic trainer? And what can we do and how we can better assist them and fill in the gaps of healthcare? It also showed me where the gaps in the healthcare system were. And I was seeing people, go out on workers' comp injuries and having to then medically retire because they didn't ever return back. And so in the industrial setting, it allowed me to help show ergonomics. It also showed me that what I can do with my two hands. It forced me to dive into continuing education to learn more of how to use my mind and my hands and other frameworks to be able to help people in a very conservative manner. So I couldn't do in industrial, you can't pull out your ultrasound, you can't pull out your e-stem, you can't pull out any fun, cool gadgets because OSHA says no. So you learn really quickly. You can either adapt to, hey, I want to keep helping these people, or hey, I'm just going to let them wear and tear through the system because the system's broken and I can't do anything. And I chose the higher route of, I don't like that people don't get better. I want to help these people. There has to be a solution for this. And I learned really quickly that how you treat an 18 to 22-year-old is not how you treat a 25 to 30-year-old. And then even then, to an nth degree of like every 5 years, you kind of have to treat the body a little differently. And so I really dove into more soft tissue techniques, more neurological ways of like eye education of how to move their eyes so that we can help reduce pain, get the central nervous system to wire and fire better and safer. So I really dove into different methods because I wanted to help these people. And if they just went out on workers' comp, then there was a 80% or higher chance they're not coming back to work. And so I wanted to see people to be able to provide for themselves because everyone's got a family at home and you got to be able to provide for yourself because what people don't know is that if you go out on if you have to medically retire, like that follows you for the rest of your life. And so that can like predispose you to not be able to get another job in the future. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that statistic for them. Maybe they wanted it for themselves, but I didn't want to play a role in that part. And so it really dove me to like realizing, hey, these different methods of soft tissue work, neurokinetic therapy, SFMA can really work. And how do we apply that? But then now, how do I go from working with what I call unmotivated populations? Because when sometimes your treatment is free, people don't want it. And so, how do I go from that environment to then going from being unsatisfied at work to being a satisfied worker myself? I had to make the change of one, I also knew that my family, we wanted to start a family. How do I create also more work-life balance for myself? And how do I do that? So I thought back to when I was at General Mills, the patients there were like, man, we wish we could see you outside of work. I went from, okay, well, if a gym can do it, how can an athletic trainer do it? So I started surveying the internet and really figuring out that, like, hey, there are other athletic trainers doing private practice. How do I do that? And I started asking questions and really diving into trying to just figure out, put the pieces together. How do I start my own thing? And fortunately, at the time for me, it meant that since I was instilled in the CrossFit community, that I could just start in a CrossFit gym. And that's organically how it converted and conveyed. It was just more of figuring out for myself, like what my worth was and how do I make myself happy again in the workplace.
As you were talking, there were a few things that caught my interest that I hadn't heard yet. We've interviewed several athletic trainers that work in the uh, uh, boy, my mind just shut down. Industrial training setting, athletic trainer setting, the industrial setting. And this is the first time I've heard modalities not allowed because OSHA doesn't like them. Really? Holy mackerel. Now, is that all modalities? Are you allowed heat, ice? What type of modalities are allowed by OSHA?
So at the time, I practiced from 2014 to 2018. At the time, only soft tissue work was allowed. Kinesio tape had just been taken off the table during that time that I started. And
Literally.
literally, they'd
Okay.
said it's literally a medical treatment if you utilize kinesio tape. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So I, we wore that out. We waited a long time and we had a lot of people petition to like help put it back on the table. And during I think it took about 2 years of being in the industrial setting that it got brought back on the
Oh
table.
my goodness.
Yeah. So, trying to remember, E-stem wasn't allowed at the time when I was practicing. I was able to bring in a Theragun, but that was after trying to have a conversation of how this is a massage tool, not anything else. It's not a medical treatment. Um, and
No,
I
not
was
one
able
bit. Yeah.
I was able to convince my site to get a game ready unit so we could do the
Hmm.
cold compression. I'm not sure where that lies with OSHA as of today, but at the time we did bring it in. And so those were like at the time we weren't allowed to do cupping. And most of that had to do with like cosmetic look. So some sites are more litigious than not. So, where's that going to lay? And so it was just really, OSHA said you can apply a band-aid, but you can't debride an area. So like, and if you debride an area, like it can be medical treatment. So I think things have evolved. It's been 7 years since I've been in that setting. So I'm not the most versed in what's going on in that setting as of right now, but it was pretty hard back then.
And that's really what led you to start looking into more manual therapy techniques, which I'm a big fan of both. I think whatever works for the patient, awesome, use it. Manual therapy is phenomenal. There's some great techniques out there that I love to do myself in our sports med facility. All three of us sit here and kind of have our favorites that we work with. So, yeah, if you don't have any access to modalities, start using your hands a heck of a lot more. That makes more sense.
Yes.
As you're evolving and you're seeing this and you're looking at let's start a family and you're trying to find that work-life balance in athletic training, excuse me while I laugh. Yeah, hoping to find that someday. You're looking at let's start a clinic. And I've been asked that. I think we've all been asked that at least a half a gazillion times in our work life. Why haven't I? Why haven't you? Why haven't? And you just went, yeah, what the hell? Let's do it, which is awesome because you don't hear of that many. Now, I presume you talked to several individuals that did. You didn't just jump in. And did you come across many in California or mostly out of state?
I did talk to a few in California. Most of them were in California, and then a few of them were out of state. But most of the out of state people that I talked to, even now, I've met later on. So after I established as a business. Actually, the athletic training world is how I learned that it was possible. I listened to a podcast from Alicia Pennington that talked about the framework of business ownership, her Advantage podcast. And
Of
that's where
course.
I really
Yeah.
learned like, oh, that's as simple as what you need to do. You just need to like establish an LLC, like simplicity to it. Yes. Is it easy? No. And then I learned through I had met another individual who's an acupuncturist AT. And so he shared his side and spectrum of it. And then learned met another individual, Vander from Southern California, who he now lives in Texas. He had opened his own private practice in Southern California. I talked to him over the phone organically. And then I talked to other individuals. I talked to kinesiologists and I like learned I asked them how are you as a kinesiologist how are you doing this, and they literally told me you provide a service and you ask for money. And so I said, it's that simple? They're like, yeah, you have a business license, you provide a service and you ask for money. I mean, it's not always that simple, but it took the scarcity mindset out of it when that person said it to me that way. And so that's literally like the mindset that I chose to hold on to versus the fearful mindset of like the what ifs. And, I just knew that I needed to provide a quality care and I need to make sure I have my professional liability insurance on board. I need to
Definitely.
have, and since then I've learned you need to have a business insurance on board. And you also need to have like a general insurance on board. So I have lots of insurance now.
So that
Um,
wait. First, we had professional liability, and that's something we all carry. And if you don't, as an athletic trainer, you really should. But then you kicked in two new ones. What were those again?
so if you are a business, you should have business liability insurance. If you're leasing space from someone else, more than likely you need a general liability insurance policy as well.
All righty. Open up the checkbook, write a couple more checks, and you can get going. All right, good to know. Business liability and general liability if you're opening up space, which, hey, to have a orthopedic clinic, that's what you need. You need space. All right. So keep going. You're getting all this together and you're looking at starting your clinic. What really pushed you at this point after you're seeing some roadblocks and you're going, yeah, we're just going through them. What really kept motivating you to start your own clinic?
What motivated me was really honestly wanting to get back to the active population. I wanted to work with people who know how it feels to exercise. In the industrial setting, you can work with a lot of like untrained population and a lot of different body types, mental capacities. And I really wanted to get back to the pain adaptive climate, and I wanted people to be more invested in their health and passionate about their health. So that was the niche that I really wanted to start this with. And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't have all my eggs and ducks in the row. I had established an LLC with the state of California, I had my professional liability insurance, and everything just started organically and word of mouth. And so I also was working full time at that time because you've got to pay your bills somehow. And you got to have money in order to like grow. So it was really the motivation of wanting to get out of the industrial setting. I loved the cause of industrial. I loved the climate there. However, the site that I was working at wasn't the best site for me. And I wanted to just get into a different environment. How do I get Danielle to a happier place again? And how do I find passion in work again? So that's what really drove me to starting my own thing. And at first, I wasn't, I had envisioned creating a state of the art facility that replicates the athletic training room. But it was like, I don't know when and how because I don't have that capital anywhere. So, how do I do this? It's been about taking baby steps to get to where I need to go and starting off with like helping one person at a time. From that, the organic word of mouth just grew. What's motivated the scale and growth to where we're at today has been truly me growing a family. So I've owned York for 7 years. And in those 7 year time frame, I've had 4 children. And
Wow. Okay, I'm the oldest of four, so God bless you, because I don't understand how my mom and dad did it. So, and to have your own clinic and to work full time, that's wow. Bless you.
yeah, thank you. It was hard. So when I started York, I didn't know I was pregnant or wasn't pregnant yet. And I had started seeing patients in 2018, middle of 2018. Found out in September of 2018 that I was pregnant with my first child. And I had 20 patients in a week while working a full-time job. And so I was like, I'm going to do this because I want to be able to work myself into a new job so that I can quit my full-time job in the industrial realm. But then life happens and you realize that, hey, you're pregnant. You can't work like a dog in while trying to build the child. So I stepped away from York, but I still had loyal clientele that were like, hey, let us know when you come back. And so 2 months after having my first child, I had people saying, hey, can we come by your house? Can you treat us there? Like, we'll hold your baby. Can you come back to work? Can you work on us? And it just drove that motivation, as well as having a very supportive spouse, has helped me believe in myself more than I've believed in myself ever. And it's drove me to want to pursue further because my husband and the people around me see in me something greater than I saw in myself at the time. And sometimes I still struggle to that. And so the motivation for me has also been the feelings of there's a bigger stamp out there in life for York, and that it's a blessing to do what I do for others. And so how do we bridge that gap in healthcare? And that's the motivating factor, is the gap in healthcare, a place where we're not a PT clinic, we're not a gym, we're not a spa. We are sports medicine, recovery, and performance all in one roof. And we provide that concierge approach to people that people don't get anywhere else, especially in the Central Valley of San Joaquin, Stanislaus County. So it's unique, and it's going to be, it is revolutionary, and it's just something that, because we put people first and we focus on relationship building, and we really value seeing people, hearing what they're saying, and helping them get the answers they need. And sometimes that means we're referring out to a different provider. It doesn't mean that we're handling it all ourselves in house. Sometimes it means I'm calling the ortho at the night in the night and saying, hey, is there any chance we can get this person into you? Sometimes it's like, hey, go see my friend, the chiro, go see my friend, the acupuncturist. Let's get you the care that you need. So we're trying to build the same community that the athletic training room offers athletes. And, it's really easy for the athletic trainer to pick up the phone and say, hey, ortho doc, we have Joey here. Can you get them in? Or, hey, you just have doc night built into your week. So we're trying to do that on a different community level, where I can make a phone call and expedite someone's care, just like you can in the athletic training room. And that's through relationship building. The ortho I use, I met in the CrossFit realm. I used to work out alongside him. So it's just about caring for one another and being genuine about it. And that's what we do. We do that in one-on-one appointments. We do it amongst our staff, and we do it just in our community, showing up for community events and providing them a place that, like, what we all love in the athletic training room, a community of place that builds one another up and cares about one another's healing processes.
So really, you're taking a traditional athletic training facility, a clinic, and putting it in the community for the community to experience, many of them for the first time.
Yes, exactly that. And it's
Oh,
fun.
that's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah, now I get it. I totally get it. You're just giving them what we already know.
Yes.
And purely, I love how you said it, putting the people first, putting your patients, whoever walks through your door and needs one-on-one attention, they're getting it. And you're empowering them in their healthcare.
Yes. Yes, it's absolutely beautiful, because people aren't used to be treated this. They're not used to being treated the way that we treat them. And I have so many conversations with people that are like, why didn't my doctor do this? Why didn't they talk to me this way? Why are they just putting me on prescriptions? And even to the point that I had a patient who hurt her back at the gym, and she was with her fiance, and he was like, hey, do we need to take you to the ER? And she's like, no, I need to go to York. And it's just a fun stamp that people trust us that much, that they want to experience York first, because we know we're going to help them with that musculoskeletal problem. And if we can't, we're going to refer them on. We're going to be honest with them and say, this is out of our scope. This is out of our realm. We need you to go somewhere else.
But that's the key. So many clinicians, I'm not saying athletic trainers, I'm not saying anyone in specifics, but so many clinicians nowadays, they're tied into the insurance and they're just looking for that quick payment, and they don't really care about the referral. If you really care for your patients the way athletic trainers care for their patients, their athletes, or their clients, you refer when appropriate. That's what we do. We identify and we take care of. Period.
Yep,
This
exactly.
is I'm a little jealous right now.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Elevate your knowledge, ignite your curiosity, and compete with the best minds at events hosted by the American Academic Competition Institute. AACI's sports medicine competitions feature practical exercises, challenging quizzes, specialty tests, and keynote speakers that foster knowledge and social engagement in healthcare and sports medicine. Go to aacitest.org for more information on upcoming regional and national competitions. Sign up for the ultimate intellectual showdown.
I didn't think that this would be leasing a 1,800 square foot facility, 7 years down the road. I thought I'd still be by myself or maybe another athletic trainer alongside me, like, because that's just the normal hustle of the athletic training room. You're used to like seeing multiple patients, and now we have more private centered care. And now we've also been able to, because of the relationship we built, like we've been able to grow corporate wellness. So what I learned in industrial athletic training applied to a conversation where I had a government agency ask me, like, would you do this for us? And so, where now we took the model that I created, I reframed it into smaller sessions. I took what I didn't like in the industrial setting and I applied it into a very much so preventative style of appointment where we're hitting people's stress needs, we're hitting people's body care needs with multidisciplines. So it's no longer just me. We have massage therapists on staff, we have strength and conditioning coaches on staff, we have another athletic trainers on staff. So now we have like multidisciplines that people can have that access to. And we're hitting both the mind and the body to help people holistically, conservatively get the care that they need so they can perform their best and be able to feel like now I can get through my 12-hour shift. And now I can be more calm as I'm going through this caseload to help me prep for an upcoming case in court. So it's really cool. It's so applicable. What we do as a profession is so applicable. And I think more of us should take charge, take that risk, bet on yourself that it's going to pan out and work out. And really sit and think how Dr. Scott Saylor, I went to Fresno State and he asked us when we were kids, like, or I say when I was a kid, because it's been some time, what would you take from the athletic training profession and how would you charge that fee? And at the time, I thought that was a ridiculous question. And I couldn't see the pieces, but that was the seed that was planted back in the day. And to now, what I'm doing is I'm literally charging a fee. I'm not going off of CPT codes. I'm charging a fee for the service that we can provide because we're a cash-based clinic that provides cash-based care to corporate wellness sites as well as in-house clinics. So we're trying to do something different. We're not going off of standard ROI. Yes, we do pull those metrics to prove our worth, but those sites aren't asking for how many dollars is this potentially saving us. They're like, well, that's not directly applicable to these workers' comp numbers. So how do we show them customer satisfaction? So that's what we're diving into lately is let's show them how we're boosting employee morale. Boosting employee morale is huge right now across the board. Happy employees stay employed, right? So
Amen. Amen.
how do we help give them that cutting edge so that their employees are happy so that they can still work for longer, and that's really where the world is going. And so that's what we're shifting more towards a vitality of life mindset. And I really think the profession should really, think about doing that too. Is like, I mean, athletic trainers are asking for that in their own settings of themselves is like, how do you become happier? How do you not burn out? How do we take care of one another? And so we're just taking those same concepts that I hear talked about in the profession and we're just like applying it in real life action.
Well, I hope everybody caught at least a quarter of that because wow, well, that was awesome. Oh my, oh my. And so I'm looking at your clinic right now and some of the stuff you guys have available. And just to name a few things that we know in the athletic training world, you've got Game Readies, Normatex, you have a cryo chamber, infrared saunas, massage, and then you start talking about comprehensive evaluation treatment and aftercare and express recovery. This is stuff we do daily in a traditional, quote unquote, athletic training facility. So you're doing what we do and getting paid, as you, to quote you, cash money. Thank you, Dr. Scott Saylor. Shout out again. We always seem to find a way to shout out to our fantastic friend at Fresno State. But yeah, what's your value? That's it. You're getting paid for your value and treatment of your clients, patients, whatever you want to call them. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. It hasn't always been easy. It's hard as an athletic trainer and healthcare workers. We're used to taking care of people. I will say it is far easier for me to train and keep a staff member accountable for charging the right price than it is for myself. Because it's hard to break those chains that you're like, what, I just want to help this person. And when I first started taking care of people, I charged $50 an hour for literally the most intensive work, in addition to a full therapeutic exercise plan like that I went home and did after I treated them. So technically an hour and a half of work I got paid $50 for. So like,
Yikes.
yeah, so we all start somewhere. Not saying that that's where you need to start. I'm just saying like you have to figure out. It does take some diving. You've got to dive and figure out, one, what are the costs to cover your costs? Like, so you do need to look at your own ROI, but also like what do you think you're worth? But you also, in order to charge your worth, you have to build that community within you. So we now have a community and we're still building a community. In August of last year is when we opened up our new space and expanded our service offerings. And so we are constantly every month looking at opportunities. How do we get out? How do we engage with our community? It's not built in like it is in the university or high school setting or industrial realm. We have to go out and meet. And sometimes that can mean for you that you're involved in a gym organization. Sometimes athletic training taught me, join the Rotary Club, join the Chamber of Commerce, talk to them about it. Athletic training also showed me how to talk about athletic training. Being in the state of California, we know people don't know what athletic trainers are, and that is disheartening. But instead of getting bogged down and frustrated by it, like find an adaptive piece to like express like how you can help. Don't get caught up in that they don't know who you are. Express what you know so they trust in who you are, because we're great. We're amazing. Our profession's amazing, and I want to see it continue to grow.
I couldn't agree with you more. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. This is awesome. So you sit here, you're 7 years in, it's growing. You're constantly looking to add programs, pieces, ways to develop your organization, your company into a bigger and better product for your community. What are some things maybe on the horizon that you're hoping to do?
Absolutely. So I hung up my pregnancy shoes after my fourth child. So I say that that was an athletic feat in itself. For anyone who has any children, it is it's a blessing, but it is very hard to do what I did. So I feel like I'm now, as my youngest just turned a year old on Saturday, I'm entering a new era of clarity.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. I have it's more of doing what we're doing, but in a more foundational framework approach so that we can scale to a larger route. How do we provide more care to more government agencies? It's a niche within itself that we love helping. It's an honor to help public safety industries, to help people be able to do that tactical work that they do. It's also an honor to grow our clinic, create something that this area doesn't have. And so I want to continue to bring in more athletic trainers. I'm going to be bringing in more strength and conditioning coaches so we can provide more preventative framework that's different. So right now we're currently creating an ACL workshop in a risk reduction route. So not the typical, let's get your squat heavier, let's focus on your lunge mechanics. We're going to focus on the hip, the foot, the whole system approach, like what athletic trainers do to make sure somebody is ready to return to play, but we're going to take that framework and we're going to apply it into a 6-week framework. And we're going to take that and we're going to say, hey, this is what we can offer you. Let's get your kid in here. But we're going to frame it from a performance standpoint. Because what I hear people have a hard time paying for self-care. So self-care in people's mind is a luxury. So how do we take that luxury mindset? People will pay money for performance enhancement. So we're going to say, we're going to help because it will help them perform better. And we're going to take that performance mindset. So we're pivoting as a business right now from not just talking about how do we help you recover? How do we help you prevent injuries to how do we help you perform? And I think that's really, the athletic trainer really truly is a performance enhancer position. I think in one of your last podcasts, one of the young ladies said a career extender, in order to,
Yes, yes.
so in order to career extend, that's what we do here too, is you have to focus on performance. Can they perform? And recovery is a part of that. Reducing risk is a part of that, but look at it from a larger framework because performance pays. So how do we make sure that we're all getting paid is having a performance mindset. So that's where we're pivoting to right now, is still doing what we're doing great, but more people allows for more people to be taken care of because we see people on a one-on-one basis. And so how do we create larger funnels? So we create workshops and different things like that. So that's really what we're trying to do.
So awesome. And thank you for quoting Rachel Purcell of the Athletics. That was a great episode that just popped on a few days ago. I loved her comment. We are career extenders. And that's true. We're career performance enhancers. We're there. It doesn't matter what career. I love tying it all together.
Yeah, no, it's super fun. I think it's just about changing that trajectory. She changed her trajectory of like how she was thinking of helping these athletes to that career extender. And I think that's just what we all need to do. We're not just here to help with the ice, the patching, the taping, but all of that plays a role in what we're doing. And really would love to see more athletic trainers own facilities like this. Yes, it is a big stake in the ground. It is a big risk, but it's possible. It's doable. People out there are less educated than us doing the same thing. So why are we so scared? That's my question. Like, why are we so scared? Why are we making this seem like an enigma and a part of that answer to that question is athletic trainers are not taught business development or business leadership in our career.
Totally. Yep. Yep.
So how do we get more of that into the hands of athletic trainers? And I think it just comes down to just the affirmations from the community that this is okay. And part of it's also like, so if we have that affirmation, we trust that it's going to work, because how business works is if you have a business plan and an outline, you have roles delineated, there's safety within that structure. Is this person following the job description that they're upheld to? And so if they are, then yes. And if we have these insurances in place, it should be safer for us to be able to perform. And let's tackle one piece at a time, not eat the whole elephant. Like, licensure isn't here yet. Yes, I want it to pass. I want it to be there. And I'm going to do whatever it says that I need to do when the path is there. But right now, technically, like, if I'm saying this incorrectly, like, technically athletic trainers and personal trainers, there's no jurisdiction for either one of them. But a personal trainer can own a gym, but an athletic trainer thinks that they can't. Why is that?
Good question.
So
Excellent question.
yeah, so let's stop getting in our own ways and let's provide people more care. I
Stop
just,
getting in our own ways. Yeah.
it's scary. It for sure is. It's very scary, but the benefits and the rewards outweigh it all. The blessings from it all just outweigh it all.
All right, people, you heard that. According to Danielle York, bet on yourself. Stop getting in your own way. This is like a self-proclaimed, here's what you need to do. So great quotes, great ideas. Yeah, I might just quit my job and go start a clinic now. Okay, honey, sorry. Love you, babe. But yeah, bye-bye, St. Francis. I'm motivated right now. I don't know about you, but I am so motivated. Great ideas. And it's true. We are in school trained that we will be in a organization that will take care of us and protect us and give us our entity for our budget and give us our facility. And we're never taught, well, what's the next step? How could we go out on our own? What could we do? What are we capable of? And it takes a person like yourself going, let me think about this and give it a try. So kudos to you. I don't think I say that word often. So I'll say it again. Kudos to you. Awesome. And wow. I'm guessing another 5 years we're going to talk and you're going to have a 5,000 square foot facility at least, the way
That'd be
it's rolling.
awesome.
That'd
Yeah.
be awesome.
That's goals right there.
There you
Yeah.
go. There you go. Are you currently working with many athletes in the area?
Yeah, so we work with I started the business with working with adults, but the athletes I've seen a former Olympian. So we have former Olympians in the area. They come see us. We work with youth athletes, so anywhere from a 13-year-old to a 75-year-old. And the word athlete is defined differently for everyone, right? Um,
Amen.
so I would say majority, probably 80% of our population is of athletic involvement. So
An,
pickleball,
an active individual of some sort.
yes, but we
There
do
you
have,
go.
the longer we are in business, we are seeing more and more youth athletes, and it's been fun because the area I live in, there's no high school athletic trainers here.
No, don't say that. No.
Yeah, so it's like how do we help one another? And so it's just we're building more awareness so that it can be possible for other athletic trainers here in the future. I fully believe that because part of my thought process is how do we help educate the school systems? A lot of that starts with like talking to the school district athletic directors, and we've done that, and we plant those seeds and we let them know that like we still want to partner and bridge that gap so it's an AT and not a PT at their school games.
Which is so appropriate. No, no disrespect to PTs. I married one, so I love them, but they're not trained for that acute setting care. And we are. So, hey, let us do our thing. You are educating myself and any listener out there of the podcast. This is great. So I don't want to take too much time because, hey, your time is worth money and we want to make sure you're making that money. But I would love to get just one last question in for you to maybe help a future AT looking to go in this direction. With that, what advice would you give somebody, an athletic trainer, thinking about opening their own practice and or looking to go this direction? Other than, yeah, not next door to me right now, but what advice would you give that athletic trainer that's starting to think about going into private practice?
Well, I think there's a lot of great resources for athletic trainers or business owners in general. One, you need to understand what the tax liability is. So where do you need to start to protect you on a tax standpoint? Because the IRS, they love their money and they will get it. So you can Google it, you could chat GPT it to figure out that framework for yourself. And it's really quick to fill out as well paperwork online to establish a business within the state of California. Another great free resource is logging into SBDA, I believe. So the SBA, a Small Business Association, is all over. And you can find your local association and set up a meeting to identify how do you start a business. And they will be able to teach you what your next steps is. They'll be able to teach you how to write a business plan. There's free business plan tutorials on there, and you can have your own free mentor. For a while there, I met with one person. I also met with, they established me with a QuickBooks expert, which means like a bookkeeping expert, so I can learn what bookkeeping things I needed to do. They also have HR experts. They have different experts on how to grow your social media. So it's a really great free resource that can really teach you how to do those things. Another resource for you to do is to contact other business owners like myself, and just pick our brains. Some athletic trainers answer their DMs. Some of them just look for their email addresses. Don't just like DM them on social media, because DMs are DMs and they can get filled up. And how the world of social media works is not always, it doesn't always populate easily when you're trying to get a hold of someone. But just talking to people, I think, is really big. And really trying to figure out what framework works for you. So there are other athletic trainers out there in the world like Mike Stella and Alicia Pennington, who help other small businesses learn how to scale and adapt, teaching you a little bit more framework or how to establish that. And so I know I worked with Alicia Pennington for a while to just help me. I had already established, but she helped me learn, because I was getting ready to have my third child. I needed to figure out, how do we create a more secure framework to allow us so that I don't have to be as hands-on with the business. So she helped me learn how to create more hands-free options for me. So sometimes it's just, as you grow, you're going to start somewhere. So start with just calling your SBA and getting a hold of them and figuring out, do I use LegalZoom, or can I just do the free route and like learn how to do it through my state's legislation on filling out the paperwork and all the codes. So sometimes it can be confusing. You don't always have to hire a lawyer to do it. And so sometimes it's just taking the time and plugging in what you can, really sitting with your thoughts and really identifying what you're going to do.
Wow. I'm a little jealous. So actually, no, I'm a lot jealous. I'll say it again. I'm very jealous. I'm my hat goes off to you, what you've done. All you athletic trainers out there thinking about it, listening to this podcast. This is a wealth of knowledge in front of me. I'd like to thank Danielle for sharing her knowledge that she's gained over the last, I'm guessing, hasn't just been 7 years on this journey. It's been probably 9 to 10 at least. Sharing it with us today is just so useful and helpful. And as she said, bet on yourself. I'm going to be using that all day today. Bet on yourself. I couldn't agree more. Danielle York of Modesto, I would like to thank you so much for being on our podcast today and educating me along with all our listeners. And I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Welcome to Wrap It Up Sports Medicine and More, the podcast that gives you a viewpoint in sports medicine that can't be found anywhere else. I'm your host, Eli Halleck, and we have a fantastic show ahead of us today. So let's get started.